in the midst of sock week and getting all of those socks done, I really surprised myself this year because I was able to start a brand new project this week as well. I don't know where all this time is coming from, but I am loving it. So hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Nitty Natty. Welcome to episode 283 of the Love and Stitches podcast. Today I am coming to you from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. We are at a lovely little campsite. It is a bright and beautiful day, and in the shade it is not too warm. So I'm really happy to get to be outside because the first day that we got here, it was brutally hot. And even in the van, it's actually pretty warm right now. So Kent's got everything closed up. He's got the air conditioning going, but out here I'm actually getting a pretty decent little breeze. So we're just gonna sit back, relax, and enjoy. I have a new project to share with you that I've cast on this week. I've got lots of sock progress because this past week was sock week. A few things coming up to tell you about, so let's get right into it. First thing I want to start with is sock week, of course. I do have a finished object. So the first thing that I have done for sock week is finished this cute pair of self-striping socks. This yarn is from Polka Dot Creek, and it was one of our sock week yarns this year, and it is called Banana Split. So it's got 4 lovely stripes in it. The kind of speckled one, red, brown, and yellow. I think I need to drink more coffee because I'm not picking up basic colors at the moment just yet. Let's see, I have my label here, Polka Dot Creek, and I really wanted to work up this yarn during sock week because it is one of our, actually it's our only Canadian sponsor from this year, and we're in Canada. And so I thought, just felt like that would be perfectly fitting. Also, I find stripes really motivating, and when you're trying to get things done in a certain amount of time, having a motivating project is really helpful. So what I did over the last week is I did this entire sock. So the first sock I already had worked up from cuff to toe just without a heel. So that was completely done. And then I started this one brand new. So the way I broke it down is I spent 1 day casting on and doing the 15 rounds of the cuff. I spent the next 4 days working all of the stripes that you see here. So that's why I have all these different markers. So I have 28 total stripes. I knew that from my first sock. So I did 7 stripes a day for 4 days. So these 2 that ended up being the leg, and then these 2, actually, I think I might be wrong about that. They're not perfectly even. My foot's a little shorter than the leg. But anyway, it ended up breaking down evenly into 4 days, which was great. Day 5, I did my toe. And then on day 6, I did my heel. And I actually ended up doing, I think I ended up doing the heel on this sock first on day 6, technically, and then the heel on this sock on day 7. Today, as I'm filming this, is the last day of sock week. It's day 8, and I'm totally done. So that feels really, really good. So something interesting I did is I tried out a new heel. Was it last Saturday? Yeah, I think it was just last Saturday. We had Denise of Earth Tones Girl come to the Love and Stitches membership and teach us how to do the shadow wrap heel. And I didn't really have any socks ready for the shadow wrap heel. I have another pair of socks I'm working on. I'll show in just a second that I've already put the heel in. It's a heel flap and gusset. So I was like, dang, I can't really do the shadow wrap heel on the next sock. And then these I'd already been working up and planning to do an afterthought heel. So I just thought, well, I'll learn how to do the shadow wrap heel. I'll watch, and then I'll put it into practice at some other time. But then Denise said you can actually do shadow wrap as an afterthought heel. And I thought, bingo, I am going to try that. So that's what I ended up doing. So basically, you end up just cutting in the heel just like how you would normally do. So I'm going to flip over to this side. So I just picked up stitches where I knew my heel was going to go, cut out 1 row, just exactly like you would start a normal afterthought heel. And then I knit 1 round in my contrast color. And then I proceeded to only work on 1/2 of my stitches. And I did the entire shadow wrap heel exactly as it's written, except that instead of going all the way to the edges with my twin stitches, I left one stitch on either side. And I've put all this in my project page. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it worked out pretty well. I'll show you what I would like maybe try to figure out for next time. So then you work the whole heel from this side all the way until you're left with the 2 triple stitches on the side. It's a really loud car. I hope you can't hear it too badly. So yeah, work the heel up and over basically the 2 sets of short rows. And then once I had the, 1 triple stitch left on one side, 1 triple stitch left on the other side, I worked an entire round to resolve those triple stitches. So I worked across the heel, that resolved 1, across the instep, that didn't resolve anything, and then across the heel 1 more time. So basically a round and a half, till all my triple stitches were resolved. And then at this side, I still had left live stitches from the foot, live stitches from the heel, and I just grafted them together. I think you can see that line. These haven't been blocked. So that line that kind of looks like tilted, that's where I grafted everything. So just grafted all the way across, and then it was done. So I really enjoyed that. It was my first time doing the shadow wrap heel. Not my first time doing afterthought, but kind of a new thing to like put into the heel, which was fun. So what I would resolve for next time, let's see if this shows up. So on this half right here is my leg half. That's where I started the heel. And then on this half, the foot half is where I ended it. So because of those extra rounds around, I ended up with a lot of extra rows right here. So if you see like the space between the yellow stripe and the short rows is very small. The space between the like red stripe and these short rows is much longer because that's where I had those extra rounds to resolve the triple stitches. So it's not really a big deal. It's still fine. It still fits okay. So 2 thoughts for that. And also please share your thoughts if you have them. One, I would probably flip the way that I do my afterthought heel next time so that I actually start the heel from the foot and end it with the leg. Because if I'm going to have extra space, I'd rather it be in the leg and like the top part of my heel rather than adding it to my foot, which I already had measured for the right length for my foot, right? So that would be one solution, and just do everything the same way. My other thought is there's probably a better way to resolve all of those triple stitches without adding extra rounds in there, because you add the extra rounds, or I added the extra rounds by resolving them by knitting around. And then also when I grafted, that added an extra row here as well. So if you have any thoughts, I would love to hear them if I end up doing this again. So yeah, that pair is totally done. I can take all my stitch markers out now, put them back away. It was fun putting them in every day. And I feel really great with how I managed my yarn. So I ended up with only a tiny little bit left from the 50-gram ball that was the stripes, and also a tiny bit left from my contrast color. At first, when I went to do the heels, I was a little worried I wouldn't have enough yarn for both heels. I'd already used the contrast color in the cuff and the toe of both socks. And so I was like, maybe I'll have to pull out another contrast color. That is fine. I don't have a ton of choices with me here as I'm traveling, but I had a few from some of the other Sock Week yarns. So I thought I have 8.5 grams. I think I weighed it, and it said 8.5 grams. So I'm like, let me just work up the first heel. I'll see how much is left. After I worked up the first heel, I still had 6 grams left. So I think this heel only used 2.5 grams, at least for me, with my 60 stitches. So I knew I had plenty left to finish it up. So that felt really, really good. So 1 pair of socks completely finished, and 1 during Sock Week. Now, when Sock Week first started in the first few days, I was also working on a 2nd pair of socks. Then my arm started to really bother me. Is my left arm, it just started to bother me here in my elbow. And I'm like, okay, I need to slow down. I'm working on small needles and small circumference for the entire day. That's too much. So I need to shift away from doing both socks, just focus on the stripy socks. So this only got a few days of work on it, but now that I'm done with those, I am working on it again. So this is another Sock Week color from this year. It is from Super Glow Yarn. It's a mini or a sock set. So this is the mini, this is the main skein. It's called Unicorn Sparkle. It's so much fun. And the pattern that I'm doing with these is from Summer Lee. It's in her Shorty Sock Set 2, I believe, and it's called All the Frills. So they're shorty socks with cute little ruffles on them. It's going to be so much fun. So for the first 3 days of Sock Week, I made, Okay, flatten out here, buddy. All right, I made some pretty good progress. So I did, you know, 1.5 or 2 inches a day, I guess for the first 2 days. And then when I got to the 3rd day, I was like, okay, I got to slow down. So I just picked these back up this morning. They're going to become my morning knitting until they're done because I would really like to have these finished for flock, which is coming up. This is only the first sock. So I do have a bit to go, but I feel like I can probably get it done between driving. Like today we have a 4.5-hour drive. But I should be able to get some done. I'm getting really close to putting in the toe on this sock. And then once I start the second sock, I think it's really going to fly. So hopefully these will be done in the next couple of weeks, and that will wrap up all of my sock week knitting. In the midst of sock week and getting all of the socks done, I really surprised myself this year because I was able to start a brand new project this week as well. I don't know where all this time is coming from, but I am loving it. So I have started a new top. I have been planning to make this ever since I started my last one, the Florence tee. So I was like, when I finish my Florence tee, I am starting my Avenue tee. So let me show you the yarn first. I got this May at Knit City in Montreal. So I have 2 skeins of this lovely wool and linen blend, or merino and linen blend from Gélène Yarns. They are also based in Quebec. This is their Mélina. I'm probably not saying that quite right. It's their Mélina base, which is 70% organic merino, 30% linen, and the color is called Millie. So it's a really pretty pink with like a lot of variation in it. And this is my Avenue tee. Doesn't look like much yet, but I am happy that I was able to get this started and going this week. So I've only just joined in the round, and the Avenue tee, it's a pattern by Tori Yu. This is my second Tori Yu pattern this year. I did the Skyline tee earlier and really liked that one, learned some new construction with that. It had saddle shoulders. This one is also a new construction for me. It is called contiguous shaping. And basically you do, it kind of starts out like a raglan is how it felt. So I worked flat for a little bit, and then I'm working the crew neck. So cast on some stitches here. Joined people are driving by like, what? Joined in the round. And then this is what the sleeve shaping looks like. So it has this really nice, increased line that will be on the top of the shoulder. And then you can just start to see a sleeve cap developing here. So contiguous shaping is something that I had never heard of before, but it is to mimic set-in sleeves, but you get to do it all at once rather than knitting those separate sleeves and sewing them in and everything. So I'm excited to try this. It is not difficult. It was a little bit like conceptually kind of confusing at first because I'm like, where are these sleeves coming in? But following the pattern, Tori writes really nice patterns. You've got markers set in to make everything really easy. It all is making sense at this point. So I am just continuing sleeve shaping for a bit, and eventually I'll get to the point where I do take those sleeve stitches off, set them aside, very typical of a top-down pattern, and then just work the body. So that's where we are getting to very soon. So really happy that I was able to get this started. And I hope to keep on working on it. And my stretch goal, I want to finish those socks for flock, but I'd also really like to get this top done before we get to Seattle for flock so that I can have another thing to wear maybe on Saturday. So that's only a couple of weeks away. We'll see what I can do. I have added one new square to my blanket this week. So we have arrived in our 8th province, Saskatchewan. And one of the very first things we did, like within the first few hours, is go to a yarn store. We went to Yarn Over in Regina, Saskatchewan, and it was their stitch night, which was really fun. And they had some local yarns. So I've already worked up my 2 squares. I would love to show you. Let's see. I'm gonna find the tag. So the yarn that I got is Cog Yarns, and I got the color called Kindred Spirits. And look, hand-dyed in Regina, which is really fun. So for my Canada blanket that I am making, sorry, let me get this, the hook is like sticking everything together. There we go. For my Canada blanket that I'm making, I'm using 2 patterns. I am using the Battenberg blanket, which is just a solid granny square with extra rounds. And then I'm using the Yorkshire blanket pattern. And this week, I had 1 square left. There are 12 different designs in that pattern, and I had forgotten to use one of them. So this one's really fun. It's got these kind of like baubles in it, and these, they're really hard to see in the variegated, like on camera, I feel like, but in person you can see them pretty well. With these cool V stitches, super fun pattern. This was pattern number 4, waterfall, in the Yorkshire blanket. So I worked up these 2, just finished that up, and then I have not much left over. Those squares, or that waterfall square, used up quite a lot of yarn, so I have just a tiny bit left, which I'm going to put into Toaster's blanket, which is in here as well. It's just a linen stitch square. So that's also, let me switch this down, on my list of things to do today when we start driving. Maybe I'll wrap up the blanket first. I just like to have things done. We're also going to another yarn store today, and then more in the next few days. So I want to be caught up before I get any new yarn for my blanket. I also wanted to say a thank you to a couple of people who commented last week. So I saw Judy and Rosemary, and I feel like there was one more person, but several people commented and said, if I do 35 squares for my blanket, I will have an odd number and I can use my odd square. So last week I was trying to figure out basically how many more colors can I add to this blanket, because I knew I have Saskatchewan, Alberta, and BC coming up. Those are my last 3 provinces that are going to go into the blanket. So how many colors should I be looking for? Should I be stretching to reach that next color increment, or should I be holding back to do a limited number of colors? So for some reason last week I couldn't get past doing like a 5x5 or a 5x6 or a 6x6 configuration. And then those people that I just mentioned said, hey, remember you can do a 5x7 configuration. So 5 squares wide, 7 squares tall. That would give me 35 squares, which is perfect because I have one color that I only had enough to make 1 square. So that could be in the center. And then I could do the other ones all around it because they each have the 2 squares. So then I kind of looked at things, and after this color that I just did, I now have 27 squares. So if I'm aiming for 35, that means I will have 8 more squares or only 4 more colors. And I'm not sure that's going to work out. We'll see. It may. I may be able to hold myself back. I know I'm probably, well, I don't know for sure, but if there is another hand dyer in Saskatchewan that we see in the next few stores that we go to, I would love to get that. Then that would leave me only 3 slots left for 2 more provinces. So I don't know, I might have to go on the stretch side and go up another level, like do a 6x7, but then I'm back to an even number because that's 42. So I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I am just going to see, I guess, where I end up with this whole entire blanket. Okay, I think that's all the projects for today. Let's get into the questions. First question I want to answer, I actually attempted to answer last week, and then after I recorded it, I realized I had answered it incorrectly, and I told Kent, take it out of the podcast. I'm trying again this week. And in that time, I think a second person asked the same question, or the same person asked their question again. So I want to do my best to answer it this week. And the question is, how do you count the rows in your project? Do you count the loops on your the loops on your needle, or not? And when I answered it last week, I totally said the wrong thing. So I'm glad I'm getting a second chance to answer it. So typically when you're counting rows, you do not count the loops on your needle. There is one exception, and I'll get to that in just a second. But I just wanted to show my sock here. Aside from my fun progress keepers, which were just tracking the days, like how much knitting I was doing per day, I like to use light bulb markers to count rows. So I'll put a light bulb marker in that will mark the last row of the section I was counting previously, and then I will start 1 row up from there to count to the next marker. So let's look at the one like right here, counting up to the top. So I would just start counting, and I would not count the loop here on the needle. Now, the most important thing when counting rows is just to be consistent, because typically if you're counting rows, you're trying to match things. So maybe you're trying to match socks, maybe you're trying to match sleeves or fronts on a sweater. So as long as you're consistent in the way you count from one to the other, you're going to get an even amount. So it doesn't have to be perfectly accurate. It just needs to be the same. It needs to be a match. The one exception to that, and I think one of the people that was asking this question was talking about stripes, is when you're knitting stripes. So I don't have a good sample of this, but when you're knitting stripes and you're trying to do the same number of stripes per like color that you're doing, you do need to count the loop that is on the hook. Because what will happen, I keep saying hook, needle. What will happen is the row that you have here on your needle, let's just say I have 2 rows, 3 rows of blue, right? 3 rows green, 3 rows blue, and I'm trying to match those. There will be 2 rows of blue beneath my needle. 1 row of blue will be up here. When I switch colors and go to green again, the row that's on my needle is going to come off my needle and add to that previous stripe. So when you're doing stripes, you need to count what's below and on the needle, because that row is going to become another row once it gets worked again, if that makes sense. So I hope that is helpful. I think that's a little more clear than I was last week when I said I think the opposite, but that's what I typically do. And as always, with all of these questions, you are more than welcome to add in your own tips. I answered a question last week about UK versus US crochet terms, and so many of you came in and clarified that. So like that was super, super great. So please help me answer these questions. I do not pretend to know everything. I just know what I know, and I'm happy to share those things. All right, next question is from Leah. Why do you need soap for blocking? So when I am blocking projects, I am usually finished with them, and I also want to wash them. So whenever I block, I do like to add in soap. And because I'm doing that with my finished item, I also try to do that with my swatch, like if I'm doing a swatch. So I want to treat it the same as my finished item, right? So I think for most items that you make, you will want to wash them at some point. Especially for me, I am bringing my projects with me everywhere. They are dirty. My hands are dirty sometimes when I'm working on them, not like I'm trying to make them dirty, but I'm not the kind of person who's going to go wash my hands before I pick up my needles. I feel like most people are not going to do that. It's not like food prep, but they do, get stuff on them. You set them somewhere. Especially me, I'm setting them outside. I'm setting them on the floor of the van. I'm setting them, down at a restaurant or something. I want to wash them before I wear them. So that's why I like to use soap when I am blocking stuff, because I'm also cleaning it. Okay, next question is from Katie, and I actually took a screenshot of your question so I can read it as you wrote it. So you said, I've been knitting for years, but I just started using hand-dyed yarns. How do you mix the skeins together to get a cohesive project? My first garment was a t-shirt, and I ended up with a noticeable line between the 2 skeins of yarn in the body under the bust. I still love the way it looks, but I'm wondering for future projects what you do, or if you're okay with the contrast between the different skeins of yarn. I think that's a great question, because that is one of those like unspoken, like not rules, but like unspoken skills of knitting and crochet that people don't really explicitly teach. It's not like you would go to a class to learn that or look up a tutorial to learn that. I know they exist out there, but it's not as concrete. So this is what I like to do, because I do not like to have a line in between changes in skeins. So I do have a good example for this, because I am doing it on this project. So for my Avenue tee, I have 2 skeins of yarn, and this yarn, hold on as I get it untangled, this yarn is pretty variegated. I mean, it's not like multiple colors, but it's got variation in shade between like darker, lighter pink, almost to like the natural color of this yarn. So it looks different. And the 2 skeins that I got are hand dyed, so they're not going to be exactly the same. Do they look really similar here? Absolutely, but there are darker parts and lighter parts and things are going to change. So in order to combat that, the easiest thing to do is to alternate your yarns. So typically this would just look like, for as much of the project as possible, you do one row in one skein, one row in the other skein, and you just keep on alternating. There's a little more nuance than that because that's not always manageable throughout an entire project like a sweater. So for this one, for example, I started with just one skein. I worked all the bits of this that were worked flat with just the one skein. I didn't try to alternate at that point because it's just too much work. Also, when with a yarn that is variegated like this, it's going to change the way that it looks anyway when I go from working back and forth to working in the round, when I go from a small number of stitches to a large number of stitches. So there's already going to be a certain amount of change expected here. So I don't want to do all this extra work to make it try to match when it's going to change anyway. So my goal was, once I got in the round, that's when I want to add in my second skein so I can start alternating there. So that's what I did. So I worked the whole flat bits. In a sweater, like typically any small pieces, I will just use one skein for, and then I'll add in the second one once I get going on a larger number of stitches, just again for ease, or when I join in the round. So once I got joined in the round, I did one round just with my skein I had already worked on. And then I had to start thinking, where do I want to add in the second skein? Where is going to be an inconspicuous place? So I didn't start it at the beginning of the round because in this particular sweater, the beginning of the round is in the front, right here. And I didn't want to add it there because I am doing something called helical knitting. So helical knitting, it is so awesome. There are lots of tutorials online for helical knitting. You'll typically see it for stripes that are different colors, but it's a really great tool to use when alternating yarns in a sweater, because when you alternate yarns at like the same place in every round, you'll get this tight line where you've alternated. When you do helical knitting, you actually change where you alternate the yarn every round by doing slip stitches. It is much easier than it sounds, and it is a very smooth transition. So I wanted to do helical knitting, and in helical knitting, because you change where you alternate by 3 stitches every single round, your change moves around. I'm still doing increasing here, so I didn't want my helical knitting to happen anywhere where there were increases, plus I didn't want to change yarns here in the front. So my thought was, why don't I add in my second skein of yarn? And I know this is hard to see, but it's in the back. So it's in the back, I think like back here. So now I have a big stretch of just plain knitted stitches. I'm not doing any increasing in the back. It's only happening on the sleeves. So while I'm working the sweater, I was very strategic to add it there so I can do my helical knitting without disrupting any of the increases. Also to hide that in the back of the sweater where I change it. So what you can see now is the tail where I added in my second skein. So I've already done a few rounds since then. And then it started here, and already where I changed the colors has moved back here. So it will continue to move all the way across, but I have all these plain stitches on the back. So hopefully all the way to here, right? Because here's where my sleeve starts. Oh, sorry, can you see that? Here's where my sleeve starts. I don't know if you can. Haha, it's just a marker. There's nothing exciting about it. Basically, I have all this space to do my helical knitting. Once I get to the full stitch count for this, the sleeves will be coming off. They will be placed on hold. I will have to cut one of these yarns and rejoin it back in to do helical knitting for the body. So another thing I could have done is waited until the body to start alternating, but I felt like now that I'm in the round, I better start alternating at this point. So I know that was a lot of information. The easy answer is just alternate however you know how to do it. If you want to experiment with helical knitting, the best place to do it is when you're already in the round and your stitch count isn't changing. But once you get comfortable with that, you can start adding it in other places. So that's what I do. If you're using a solid yarn and your 2 yarns are very different, you are going to see stripes. Like, it is going to look stripy because you're alternating. So another strategy you could do is, if you have like let's say 4 skeins for a sweater and 3 look exactly alike and 1 looks very different, you hold off on using that one that's very different until you know for sure you absolutely need it. And you use it in strategic places. Maybe you use it for the button band because it's okay if that's a little different. Or maybe you use it for like short sleeves if you're okay with them looking a little different. Basically using your new skein to start a new section rather than to continue a section you've already started where there will be a line. You can use it for rib, use it for sleeves, different thing like that. You can also, instead of alternating for your entire project, you can just alternate for a short section to transition to your next yarn. So maybe once you get down to 15 grams of your first ball, then you alternate every other row until that first ball of yarn runs out, and then you just continue with your second ball of yarn. That works too, but I find with like a t-shirt or something, I only have 2 skeins. Alternating the whole time is gonna give me the best result. Okay, last question. This one is from Beth. When you're camping, what is your favorite time of day? Okay, so I have 2 answers for this because my favorite time of day every single day, no matter where we are, is morning, because after I've made my breakfast, I sit back down in bed, I have my breakfast, I read, and I knit for the day. So no matter where we are, I love that. It's especially fun when we're camping or somewhere beautiful because like where we are here today, the weather was cool enough in the morning to open the windows, let in fresh air, look outside, and I just love that time of day so, so much. The other favorite time of day for me, and this is when we're in like a busier campsite. The campsite we're in right now is actually really not busy at all, so there's not really a lot of people around us. So I think my favorite time of day when we're in a busier campsite is when it starts to get dark and everyone starts to make their fires. That is just like the most magical time. It's dusky, there are fires, there's like that campground noise of like people chatting and laughing and maybe cooking. There's the smell of the campfire. There is just something about it that's so magical. We don't often do a campfire or even really hang out outside all that much because we like to do our hanging outside during the day with hiking and things. And then we're like, hey, we're going to take advantage of having a spot to stay at and be comfy in our beds. So getting to hear everyone else enjoy it is really, really fun. I have a quick bit of Yarny news. We've left this section out for the past 2 episodes because I didn't have anything to share. Today, I have 2 things to share. So first is Flock Fiber Festival is coming up in just a couple of weeks. It is Saturday, August 9th and Sunday, August 10th in Seattle, Washington. I am going for the 2nd time this year. I'm really excited for it. It's going to be so much fun. We have so many people from the Love and Stitches membership going. I'm so excited to see. So I have been looking forward to this for quite a while. So after Saskatchewan, we are going back into the US and we are going to Seattle. And then after that, we're going to be finishing up our Canada trip with our last 2 provinces. So a little out of order of things. But I did want to share that Boston Jen, you may know her. She has the Downseller Studio podcast. She's the one who does the Splash Pad Party Make-Along and Pigskin Party. Oh, that's a loud bird. We are going to be hosting a meetup together, and it's going to be on Saturday, August 9th in the lobby of the convention center at 1:30. It's just going to be a quick gathering, nothing super crazy, but we just wanted to have an opportunity for us to get together. We have a lot of people that are in both of our different like memberships and communities, so we thought it'd be fun to host it together. So we will just be in the lobby. We're going to be just like finding a spot where we're not in anyone's way, just kind of standing there, getting to say hi, getting to take photos together with people. I will have some of my stickers and stuff if that's something that you're looking for. So if you're at Flock this year and you want to come meet myself or Jen, that is one place we will definitely be. So 1:30 on Saturday at Flock. I'm really looking forward to it. I have a few quick life highlights to close us out this week. The first thing that was so fun this week is we spent a lot of time in Riding Mountain National Park in Manitoba, and we saw so many bears. It was so cool. We saw them all from the car. We did do a little bit of hiking, but it was pretty hot while we were there and very mosquito-y. And the one hike we did, I was terrified that we were going to turn a corner and see a bear the entire time. So we really kind of laid low and did more driving throughout the park. And then we also saw bison, and so many bison babies. They were adorable. They were like roughhousing and playing and rolling in the dirt, and it was just so joyful to see. So such a great experience there. The other thing that was really fun that we did in Manitoba is I got to visit with Sarah Shira of Imagine Landscapes. She is the designer of all the adorable gnomes that you see, the knitted gnomes. And we filmed a little segment with her where she showed us all of her different gnomes. So that's going to be in our Manitoba vlog coming up in a couple weeks. Really excited to share that with you. Actually, I think I mentioned before, I'm so excited to share all of Manitoba with you. We did so many fun yarn things in Manitoba. So that was really fun. We got to hang out with Sarah and her family. We actually parked in their driveway for the night and slept there. But we had such a great time getting coffee and taking a walk and playing board games. And it was just really lovely. She cooked for us. I mean, she was the best host. So that was super, super fun. And then lastly, I got to attend Stitch Night at Yarn Over in Regina this week. I know I mentioned that already, but that was really great. I haven't gotten to go to a ton of Stitch Nights with traveling in Canada, just because we're traveling so differently. We're not planning our yarn store visits well ahead of time. So it's more just like, it works out like the day before and we're like, hey, we're there for like Stitch Night, let's go. So that was really nice to actually get to sit with the community. Everyone was really lovely. There were so many crocheters at that Stitch Night, which was really fun. Lots of different interesting people. So I really, really enjoyed that. All right. That is everything for this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.